Hey there, still settling in after returning home, but while I was traveling around California, I of course made sure to check out some of the famous local stores that we don't have in NZ in search for toys that I really needed, because we don't have many toys back home. Most of everything that I found, mind you, were items that weren't sold back home in NZ, or they were pre-order items that don't actually have officialized release dates. So I was on a mission. The first stop that actually did feel successful was a Target on, I believe, Baldwin Hills. It was a massive store unlike anything here in NZ, the same kinds of varieties of toys that we have here, mostly shelf warmers and leftover items. These cool Mattel Disney toys remind me of the toy box ones that I do love so much that aren't sold here. Scale is too different anyway though, so I can't really get those for my collection. Everything Ninja Turtles appeared to be on sale over the December break, but I do already have the ones that I want from that movie line. My biggest hunt was for Indiana Jones. The line completely stopped selling here after wave 1, and these Target exclusives were never even carried here. $22 for the Map Room Indy. He looks really great, but I did have to put him back because he's almost more than the regular price that the figures cost here. The exact same thing for these Holocron figures. I do really want the Bo-Katan one just for the novelty of it, because they're not sold here, but again, very pricey. The most intriguing thing that I saw on sale with the Mario movie toys, that Jack's toy line just wasn't sold here, besides the really small Mario Kart vehicles. But because I've never really played around with one, I don't know what the quality of those toys are like though, so I couldn't quite commit to them, but I was very tempted. It was also really nice seeing McFarlane toys actually on toy shelves here. NZ, for some unknown reason, only sold the Flash movie figures, and they've stocked no other figures in the line's history. This was me seeing the Aquaman 2 toys for the first time as well. A few G.I. Joes here were on display. Another line that's not carried here in NZ. Had these been on a clearance or a slightly lower price tag, then they would have been a very easy sell for me. And the superheroes aisle reminded me of home. It was just as thin spread as I'm used to. Nothing much available here, and yes, that big empty space was where the Spider-Man No Way Home figures were, figures that I was really hoping to buy myself. The most interesting part of the US stores are these collector sections here, where NECA toys are usually carried. We don't have this kind of area at our stores, and I knew that I would find something here for me. Getting to see the NECA Gargoyles toys in person felt very surreal, taking me back to my childhood days, and there were some more collections of toys based on teen to adult lines. Some anime, some extra McFarlane figures, a weird crossover between the Ninja Turtles and Stranger Things. The Batman the Animated figures here look really nice, but they're a little overkill on the cel-shaded look for me personally. But the McFarlane area was where I found something that I was hunting for. Dune Part 2 figures for the brand new movie releasing in February, and at only $25 each, which was how much a Marvel Legends figure was sold for. Crazy prices there. They only had 3 out of 4 of the single figures and only 1 of the 2 different 2-packs. I searched high and low for that 4th single figure, but these were the only 3 available. Still, at the time seeing them, not available in NZ, so I did grab them. 25 USD each, that became $75 USD before tax, looking at around $120 NZD, which is quite a lot for an incomplete wave of toys, but more on that in a sec. Target actually had a sale that wasn't advertised, in which each figure was dropped down to 20 USD each, so it was actually only 60 USD, not 75 like I had originally planned. 65 USD total including tax, because I always forget that you guys just don't have tax on everything. Here's some footage that I managed to film at the hotel room while I go over some of the final numbers here. I paid 100 NZD for these 3 figures, which makes them close to around 34 NZD each. And since returning home, NZ retailers have actually listed these figures available for sale now, which is a big win for us because they never even bothered stocking the toys for the first movie. Undoubtedly, the first movie's success does mean that they're expecting some big movements on these products. So each single release figure is priced at around 50 to 55 NZD. You don't even need to be good at maths to know that I managed to get a much better deal grabbing these at Target. The very next day, around the Sunset Boulevard region, we headed out to a GameStop and another Target. Starting with a GameStop first, because people like to make all kinds of jokes about physical media video game stores, but I've always liked coming into stores like this. I do think that the video game stores back home are better, if I'm honest. One area that I think GameStop does outshine EB Games in though is the last gen of gaming. EB Games stopped selling PS3 and 360 era games quite a long time ago. This bin actually had some pretty nice gems here. It's been years since I was able to see a release like BioShock Infinite in this generation of gaming. But what I was interested in were toys, because again, GameStop has Indiana Jones figures, so that's who I was searching for specifically. And by searching, I ended up stumbling upon some more Dune figures here, the ones that I have, and I found only one Vala figure. Wasn't the ones that I was really hoping to find from the third wave there, and at 25 or so USD, I just put him back. And then at the very bottom of that shelf, I found the missing Dune figure that I needed, just what I needed to call it a win. On the other side of the store there, I found the missing 2-pack as well. There was also some other Hasbro figures here, the Indiana Jones 2-pack that I do really want, but it has to be cheaper somewhere else surely, because who else is going to be wanting wanting to pay full price for 2 old men as action figures. Again, I just had to put it back. Remembering that there was a Target across the road before I committed to the full price Dune figure, potentially on sale at that Target, we quickly went over to see what they had, also accessing maps and internet access because after shopping we were about to leave the area and we needed some directions. The Target was actually really interesting, being a few stories tall, all dedicated to just parking spaces. Inside was the same deal really as the last one. Felt like the stock here was the exact same, so I kind of stopped holding out hope that I was going to be able to spot some good Indiana Jones and Spider-Man figures. More Mario figures here, still on that same sale. The last Target actually didn't have Mario himself, so this was a better win here. I tell a lie before, for some reason we do sell the Bowser toy in this country, but he's got no other figures to be paired up with. I headed down the aisle to the Hasbro kind of area. Playmates actually had a bit more Ninja Turtles presence here. I hadn't really seen any other options for the Turtles besides the Mutant Mayhem movie, and I did really want to find some NECA figures here, but no luck ever on that trip, unfortunately. A couple of more Bo-Katan hologram figures. I was so tempted again, but it's just the most expensive item on the wish list, so I had to just kind of leave it. Marvel Legends had pretty nice stock, but it was all just MCU figures, lines that I'm just not interested in. This big Superman 2-pack here actually seemed pretty cool, an item that I hadn't seen before, and some other DC McFarlane stuff. I actually forgot about seeing this Joker figure here. Then onto the Dune figure aisle. McFarlane did have some other DC figures here and the Batman animated series ones as well, some more Stranger Things inclusions, a Leatherface who I don't have for my NECA horror figures collection, and there was another Gargoyles toy here on display. But no Dune figures, so instead of risking losing that other one, we did go back into the GameStop and I grabbed the Austin Butler figure. And our final moves for the day were headed over to CityWalk because we had planned a Universal visit for the next day, and we used this day to prepare for that journey to kind of familiarize ourselves with how we had to get there from the hotel. We also attended the AMC at CityWalk and soon discovered by the end of that trip that everything is so much more expensive at CityWalk than anywhere else, so we're never gonna do that again. While waiting for the movie though, there was this collector's store which I knew would have some interesting stock, and I was right about the interesting stock, but the most interesting thing about it was the prices. Jesus, 30 USD for a McFarlane 60s Batman toy. Even back home these toys are cheaper than the regular McFarlane DC figures, but try 40 USD for a Marvel Legends Captain Marvel figure. 63 NZD before tax is crazy. I found these interesting Pacific Rim toys that I'd never seen. They were sold at $30 odd. I didn't think that that was too bad actually, but that's just because I'm not sure where else to get these. I have no frame of reference in mind. Huge stock of Marvel Legends toys, in hindsight probably the most stocked store that I went to throughout my time visiting the state of California. Thank God I already had those X-Men figures though, so I wasn't on constant searches for them, especially at $42 each. Seeing Green Goblin here though I think was early, and that was pretty exciting to see. He's still currently up for pre-order here, and even then he doesn't have a release date and we won't stock him anyway likely. $76 for him. A couple of Monster High toys, some Toy Story, and even some Muppets toys were available, all different brands too, so I wasn't even sure what the theming here was. A couple of Sonic figures that I liked the look of, again I hadn't seen them anywhere else before, and the Star Wars display was pretty cool to see too. Vintage series at $20 or something each. A lot of those standard figures can be seen in other stores as well. Turtles display was kind of the same stock as usual stores. Turtles were priced at just under 20 USD here each. And it was pretty cool to see Malgus in person, a figure that I managed to buy for 40 NZD here before I travelled, and here he was listed at 50 NZD, so another win for me in my book. But then I found something really cool, something that I was really tempted by again. These are Treehouse of Horror figures that are made to look like the Playmates figures from the 2000s. At $28 each though, it's just a bit too premium for me. And ever since going to Comic-Con, I was so nervous finding pinheads everywhere I went, I couldn't help but compare the price that I paid though, and thankfully, this guy was priced at $12 more than what I had paid for my one, and $12 USD is actually closer to 20 NZD my currency, so that is a big win. And the last thing I wanted to show off here was this Han Solo and Carbonite ice tray that I knew from the artwork alone had to be really old compared to everything else in the store. That blue packaging has not been seen for years, and I checked the copyright here, it said 2011, which is even pre the Disney acquisition of Star Wars. But that was it for CityWalk, and basically my entire trip for toy searching around the town. We didn't really have too much spare time on our hands after this day forward. I believe the very next day we were at Universal Studios, the day after that we moved to Anaheim, and you can probably imagine where most of our time was spent for the next week for us once we got there. But do stick around though for some toy searches around the Galaxy's Edge and downtown Disney area, because I mostly went searching for different Hasbro figures, and while yes we were very busy with Disneyland for a couple of days of our week, my partner and I did manage to sneak out to Frank & Sons for an incredible day of spending, so be sure to stick around for that video as well. If you enjoyed this toy hunting video, liking and subscribing does help to support this channel for more future videos like this one. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you in the next video.